Hello friends, this is Professor Cotter, and in this video we're going to talk about verifying trigonometric identities. So, as we move forward and as we get practice learning how to work with our trigonometric identities, the thing that we're going to want to do is to verify other trigonometric identities. And so a lot of the problems in this section are going to take the form you're given a trigonometric identity and you're asked to verify that identity. So what does it mean to verify a trigonometric identity? To verify trigonometric identities is to show that a trigonometric identity holds true for all valid values of the variable. And the way that we do that, the goal is going to be to take one side of the equation that's given to us, one side of the trigonometric identity, and make it look like the other side. And we can do this using our algebraic properties, the things that we've learned to do in terms of simplification and that sort of thing. And then we can also use our already established trigonometric identities as replacement rules. And so we have a list of trigonometric identities that we know hold true, and that we studied some of those in the previous video. And what we're going to do then is try to use those in order to verify other trigonometric identities. I make the note here, and it's in death red. The goal in this case is not going to be to solve the equation. And I know that, historically, whenever we've seen an equation in math, we've always been told to solve the equation, right? The goal was to try to get x alone on one side. When we're verifying a trigonometric identity, the goal isn't to solve the equation. We know that it's an identity. And so we know that the equation is true for all valid values of the variable. And so we wouldn't really gain any benefit from trying to solve it. Instead, what we want to do is to verify it. And so again, take one side of the equation and transform it to make it look like the other side. That way we know that it's true. I make the other note here that you're not allowed to move things back and forth across the equal sign when verifying a trigonometric identity. Once it's verified, you can do that. But prior to it being verified, we can't assume that the left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side. That's what we're trying to show is actually true. And so, with those things in mind, we have some strategies for verifying trigonometric identities. And I think with this section, some students really, really like verifying trigonometric identities. It was when I took pre-calculus, this was my favorite part of the course. But I know that a lot of other students get sort of frustrated when verifying trigonometric identities because, unlike solving an equation where there's always a sort of step-by-step algorithmic process that you can follow and get the right answer, when you're verifying trigonometric identities, that's not the case. There are some strategies that we can follow, but there aren't strict guidelines for exactly what you should do. And for some of the really hard ones, sometimes you just have to, apply the staring method for a little while in order to get the answer. But there are some strategies that can help. And so the first thing I note is that when you're trying to choose a side of the equation to start with, so we're going to take one side and we're going to try to make it look like the other, transform it into the other side, always start by picking the more complicated looking side. Or I don't want to say always, because there are exceptions, but for the most part, if you choose the more complicated looking side, you're moving in the right direction. Another good strategy is to turn everything into sines and cosines using your reciprocal identities or your quotient identities. This again, doesn't always work. Sometimes you've got to use other trigonometric identities or other algebraic properties. But when in doubt, if you're stuck, this is a good strategy to try. Number 3, when in doubt, try something. So for very few of these problems can I see all of the steps all the way along the way that are going to lead to the verification of the trigonometric identity. So sometimes you have to get in there and you have to play around a little bit, and as you go in and you're working with the problem, a solution presents itself. But I find that a lot of students get stuck because they're used to that algorithmic approach to problems where, whenever you solve an equation, there's always, you do the same first step every single time and that sort of thing. And that's not going to be the case here. And so when in doubt, try something. And last but not least, don't be afraid to erase and start over again, taking a different path. So there are going to be cases where, you start working with a trigonometric identity and you've worked with it and you get stuck and it doesn't seem to be leading to, the making one side look like the other side. And that's okay. Go back, erase the whole thing, start over again, try something different. Try the same thing and maybe, from the beginning, and maybe somewhere along the way you find either a mistake in your work or you find another path that you could take. But it's not uncommon when you're first learning to verify trigonometric identities or doing any sort of proof or verification to run into a roadblock where you're going to have to back up and try again.